Hello and welcome to Kiki's Chat Show. I've been away for a while, but I'm kind of back. But I'm back in February first. Is it the first week, second week in Feb? And today we're going to talk about love, the aspects of love, how it affects us in the diaspora, how it's affecting us away from the diaspora, which is back home in Ghana and basically in Africa. There is a lot that we can, try and pack in. So we're going to start straight away. Now, you know that February is supposed to be a time of love because 14th of February is Valentine's Day. Now, I know that people who are in coupledom, people who are in relationships, well, some of them, they make an effort, they go for dinner. Now, this is because if you don't know the story, I shall have to tell you in an abridged version because it's too long. There's this man called Valentine. There are two versions to it, who fell in love, and he was in prison, and he used to write letters to his girlfriend, I think, not wife. And so he called her, and he would write Valentine at the end of it. And so, from my Valentine, your Valentine, that sort of thing. And then there is another story which talks about this man called Valentine who went about sharing roses to single women. And then there are more stories. Now, the reason why there are more versions of the story is because the world has moved on and people try and make sense of what it is, or what they try and make sense of an old story, and the story kind of begins to evolve and it becomes Chinese whispers. But the main thing is there was a Valentine. The main thing is Valentine was connected to love, to soften the heart. Valentine is connected to, before it was just roses or love letters. Now it is presents, cars, airplane rides, dinners, bankruptcy, and what have you. Now, I'm not against gestures of love. I'm not against being given a gift to show your love. Anything can happen. I'm open to it. I love it. However, I don't know if, as time has moved on with the generations, I don't know whether we're in Gen X or Gen Z or whatever generation that we're in, whether they believe in the love the way that we view it. The other issue, though, is, and this is just for laughs, but it's facto. In Ghana, for example, around February, condoms vanish off the shelves. Now, why is that? Is it that when it's Valentine, that's when people decide that this is the time to do the deed, or this is a special time? Why is everyone buying condoms? Now, this happened from 2023. Every February in Ghana, this happens. It's funny, but it's true. Anyway, who am I to say? I don't know. I have been in love. I can tell you, I have been in love about 3 times in my life. I am in love now. Every time my love changes in a different way, my expectations change, and my view of the love that I'm in also change, because I am coming with knowledge that I have gleaned from the past, and I am coming with a different type of expectation. But I am from a very old generation, because when I look at it, I do not understand how people are doing it now. Today, the topic really is modern love in 2025. I have two very important guests with me. After all my talking, I shall introduce them. And I have, if I can find all of my writings, my first guest is someone who's been here before. She is always here to talk about something pertaining to women. And she's Ms. Namele Asantiama. She's a lawyer, a legal coach. She's an intuitive life coach and a founder of Power to Our Mothers Foundation Africa. She's a UK-born Ghanaian living in Ghana now with her 2 sons. She works to support her fellow mothers and mother figures. That's women, any woman, who thrive on all levels and has created safe and a nourishing online space for Black women, Black men, and Africans at home and in the diaspora. It's all online. People join. She has a huge following to improve their emotional well-being through her venting rooms. So she has online venting rooms. People go, they talk about their issues, people discuss it. And you kind of find in these venting rooms that you may have the same issue as somebody else, even when you thought it was just you suffering alone. No, you're not. And sometimes you're not actually suffering. By the time you come out of a venting room, you have learned a lot. I also have Solomon Atta Opong. He's a political science student at the University of Education, Winneba, Ghana, and a Pan-Africanist and a lover of the metaphysics. I don't know what that is, so we're going to ask him. What is loving metaphysics? Solomon, welcome to the show. You've never been here before. It's just, this show is just a discussion, a chat. It's, nothing to be negative about.
Thank
Educating
thank you very for into it.
What is metaphysics? What is it that you're interested in about?
Okay, so first of all, let me say a big thank you to you and your team for having me. So
Okay.
when we say metaphysics, so let's break it down. Um, Meta means above. That is something beyond depth, beyond the physical. Then we also have physics, which is the study of the environment. So when you put it together, it is the study of abstract things. We try to understand what happens when we die, what happens to the soul. Do we have soul? What happens to energy? And what goes on beyond the mind? The mind is not matter, the mind is abstract, is energy, is force. So when we talk of metaphysics, is the branch of philosophy that seeks to explain all these things. Is there God? And if there is a God, how does God operate? What is the dimensions of God and what have you? So in a nutshell, that is when we talk of metaphysics, that is what metaphysics seeks to explain.
So, in your view,
Mhm.
what is love?
In my simple understanding of the meaning of love, I would say love is simply gratitude. Love
Gratitude.
is, yes, love to me, I would say love is simply being grateful.
Okay.
Because when you are grateful, you see the essence of being. When somebody does something to you, or when somebody does something for you, and you say thank you. For example, if you are living with your spouse and your spouse does something for you and you say thank you, and then if you are bold enough to ask your spouse why did you say thank you, and say oh because you did it, and you come back to ask the question why did you say thank you because of the action I did, you realize what will happen is that the person who carried out the action will go back to look at the essence, your being. So to me, love is gratitude, because when you are grateful, you see the essence of the human being. You go beyond the physical component of the human being. You look at the soul, you look at the purity of the person, you look at the unseen things of the person. That is what gratitude gives. And for you to have love, you need to be grateful. Grateful for the simple, simple things. You need to be grateful when your lover kisses you, to say thank you. You need to say thank you for him or her kissing you. That is a form, that is the purest love you can get. And
Come on.
love is simply gratitude, being grateful, being appreciative of whatever somebody does for you or to you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Love is gratitude, showing your gratitude. I show gratitude to my children, to everybody. It doesn't mean, and I show gratitude to my colleagues at work. I show gratitude everywhere. I don't love some of them. The people who may teach me something, or someone who will give me a pen when I ask for it, I will say thank you. I do not love them. It is not, I do not love them. I'm not showing them love. But I do understand what you mean, though. Um, Now, Mele, what is your view on love?
Greetings, all. Great to be back again. So, for me, love is many things, but in essence, it's an energy, an emotion. And what is emotion? We talk about energy in motion. Sometimes we hear of love being a force, and it's made of many things. People often talk, and for me, for example, what is involved in love? Sacrifice is part of love. Respect is part of love. And even within love, you can actually have experience things that are good and bad. For example, I'm a mother of two sons, as Sister Kiki said, and there are things that I do for my children which may be out of duty, but because I love them, because I have their interests at my heart. But because of the love I have for them, it also exposes me, or can expose me, to experiencing lots of pain in certain circumstances. If things happen to them, if they are ill, if someone would want to hurt them, I cannot feel that pain. If I wouldn't be able to feel that pain if I didn't have such a strong feeling for them, attachment to them, connection with them, which for me is all part of love. But that's for my children. If it's for maybe my siblings or my partner, there is an element there of it's a connection. There is connection, and there's also service. For me, service is a huge part of love.
Yeah, yeah. I can attest to. I think service. You see, because there are moments in our lives we have children, we love them, but that is a different type of love. There are all sorts of types of love, and I think that we all. I mean, there is agape love, which is the love from the Bible, from religion, from all of that, encompassing what is the meaning of love, and they say love is this, that, and the other. All that is religious. Now, there are people who have no religion, but they have love. They have passionate love, erotic love. They have love without any of the Christian or uh, Muslim or any kind of religion at all is attached to it. But that energy, as you describe, it is a feeling that they have, and they love somebody, and that's fine. Then you have love of friends and equals. So it's a different type of love. Your friends, I have my school friends who I've grown up with all these years, and I mean, I love them. They are my friends, and I have a duty towards them. I am kind to them. They're kind to me all the time. I have friends I do not see because we live in different continents, but I can depend on them. at any given time, and it is a love and understanding kind of thing. Then there is so there are different types of love. The love of children, as you describe. I have my children, I may kill a human being for them, I may, all sorts. And then there is, so there's a friendship, there's a children, there is the Bible teachings, religious, and then there's just the normal love that people have all the time. Now, I don't know. I think that now that we've passed the Mills and Boons and all of those books that we read, and even the silly films they show, because every film you watch, it underpins, when they show us films on the telly, we watch something on Netflix, they're telling us. But then one of the things I find is when you do get married, when you are in a serious relationship, that love that they showed you on the telly, on the cinema, in the movies, it's not the love that you actually, because there's strife. When there's no money in the home, there's no love. When he drinks too much, there is no love. If he beats you, there is no love. There's so many things that kind of removes that love. And so I wonder, the question though is, we're still dealing with the question of how do young people view love now? And I think the youngest person here is Solomon. So Solomon, now that you've told us the love is gratitude and all of that, how is the dating scene now for a young person like yourself? Are you in a relationship? Can Solomon hear me? Solomon? I think Solomon can't hear. So we have to kind of wait until Solomon, when you can hear, then you can kind of join in the conversation. But I'm going to go to Namele in the meantime, because Solomon is having problems with his Wi-Fi and sound and whatnot. What is the meaning? Somebody said in that love for self is the most important thing in her opinion. And I think that is also important, because when you have love for yourself, then you can give a love. You can give the love, but then there are limits to that as well, because you may love certain things, you may view the world in a certain way. So if you are with someone and it's just the love of yourself, it's still, I don't know if that works. What do you think?
Are you asking me?
Yes, Solomon can't hear.
Sorry. I think, well, for me, I'd say love for yourself.
I'm having sound problems because my Namele is also stuck and she can't hear us. So, well, she's stuck, so we can't hear her, but she's kind of stuck in a certain way. Now, people, let me tell you about love. What I discovered. Love is an interesting energy which people read in, society determines how love should be. Society tells us who we should even love. They give us subliminal messages on our television, radio shows, etc. And Solomon, can you hear me now?
Yes, I
Still
can. I
can hear me.
can do.
Can
I can
you?
hear you. I can hear you.
Okay. Solomon, what is the scene out there now amongst young people? Because you're the youngest on the show. Can you tell me how young people even date?
Okay,
How do you
so
date?
when if you look at generation, if I'm to look at my generation right now,
Yeah,
we have thrown away love, and we are rather moving based on, for lack of better words, I would say desire, or I don't want to be offensive, but let's say lust, because we have moved, as you said earlier on, because of what the media has sold to us.
yeah,
We have failed to recognize the sensation when we mention love, that is care, affection, understanding, and all that. We have decided to relegate that. And then the first thing when we see, if we are going to talk about love with the intimate level, the
yeah,
first thing when we see the opposite sex in our generation or in my dispensation is that the first thing we observe is the desire that we are, um, the physical beauty, the figure, the shape of the person, and all that. We forget to look at the essence, the being of the person, so that we can then come back to say, am I able to understand this person? You
yeah,
may be with somebody, we may be with somebody, yes, that we may not be finding understanding with, we don't have a blueprint as to where we want to go, but we are
yeah,
still together because, oh, the lady that I'm with, the figure is nice, the shape is nice.
yeah. Well, there's a lot of problem on coming because everybody is in Ghana and I'm here in the UK. So I think there's a lot of interference in their Wi-Fi. So yes, it is true what he's saying that people view love because it's all visual. It's she's pretty, she has a beautiful shape, she she's her skin, they look at all of these things and don't really pay attention to what she her inner person, and that can be quite distracting. It can be confusing because it can create, you can find out 5 years down the
Yes,
line that the person,
that's true.
this is
That's
not the
very
person
true.
for me. Yeah, you were speaking and you got cut off actually, so we didn't hear the
Yes,
last.
I think the network is a bit shaky. That's why it's behaving that way. So as I was saying, I said we, the younger ones who are coming,
Yeah,
are now not looking for essence, the being of the person. So in this dispensation, I look at when people, my peers, when they tell me, okay, this lady gave me, this lady broke my heart, this gentleman broke my heart. I'll be there and then I'll be quiet and say, wow, if you took your time to study the essence of the person. Now, I believe that love is balance. You should be bold enough to say that, you should be bold enough to have an introspection, to go deep within yourself and look at, when you met this gentleman, what value has this gentleman brought to your life? Both, oh God,
what the gentleman has brought to your life. A lot of us, strangely enough, in my generation, it was a bit visual. You want a nice, handsome person and all of that. But I mean, there was a time, the generation before our, yeah, before our parents, where marriage and being in a couple and being in a relationship, people didn't marry who they loved because the relationships were arranged. You and I talk about
that that
me, not
that is that
just
that
work.
is that is that is true in the old generation or in the
Yeah.
olden times. Yeah, people did get married not because of love. That's true. But one thing is that most of the people that got married, you could ask yourself that those who didn't marry because of love could stay together for a very long time. It was just in the rare cases that people were getting abused and all that. But
Yeah, but
those
wouldn't it
those
be
that
no?
stayed those that
Would it
stayed
be?
in the marriage were
Yeah, carry on,
those
carry on.
okay, those that stayed in the marriage for a very long time, you could realize that they married they got married because of purpose. Now what I have understood is that when you marry because of when you marry because of purpose, a purpose stronger than you begin to adjust and you begin to love the person as you grow. Then you begin to develop the feelings, the emotional support, the the looking of essence within the person that you are with. But our generation, first of all, we fail to marry because of a strong purpose. We don't have a purpose. We Most of us get married without a purpose. Secondly, most of us also marry or date because of sexual desires, sexual energy. The girl is fine, the guy is fine. So when we get married or when we date, we don't appreciate the person that we are with. We are rather appreciating the external forces, which is secondary. So when things track and the external forces begin to shake, then we begin to crumble. Then we say, oh, we want divorce, we want a breakup, we want a separation. But if you get married because of a strong purpose, you begin to love the person along the line.
You
Yeah.
begin to
You begin to
understand
love
the
the person
person.
along the line. So I think that we, for me, I would say we have missed the essence of love and the reason why we go into relationship and all that.
You're cutting up, but yeah, I get you that the reason
Yeah.
why people go into relationships are very different from the generation before, and so on and so forth. Each generation has its own reason why they do these things. I'm very interested in this generation, but you see, apart from your generation, this is your youth and this is you getting into relationships and all of that. My generation has also gone rogue with the love thing because they have come into their freedom and they are not
Mm-hmm.
as old in spirit as when my parents were 50. They were old. Now, I don't say they were old as such, but I'm talking about their generation. Some of them were old people and they behaved in a certain way. In my generation, and I'm really old, I don't see that I'm really old, even if I tell you that I'm old. I may do things that I was doing, but in a better way than when I was maybe 30 or 40. I can now afford to live and do certain things, drive a fast car, etc., etc. Even if I can't afford it, within my life, I can do things. So there is also that freedom. Now, we're not, refuse to grow. My generation are refusing to grow, but we view love in a different way, though. I now, if I'm having a partner, I may love him in a totally different way than when I was young and full of ideas. And there's more respect and there is more understanding and everything is nice. Is this niceness? And but I kind of see that the young people, there is not niceness, and it's so strange. I have a lot of young friends, my children's friends, who are not in relationships. And I'm kind of baffled by it. Like, what is actually going on? What is going on with the young people of today? And even in the Western world, there are a lot of them there. Some have, they're lucky, but the majority are not in relationship, because it's not like our time when you grow with the person. People are not growing. Now, women also want certain things. Men are asking, what do you bring to the table? Now, Mele, you keep going in and out, but there you are. Please tell me about love. This present day, 2025. How are we dealing with love? You can tell me any generation that you choose, any generation, your generation, anywhere, your observation.
Well, I'm in my late 40s, and I think the world we live in now, we can't, I think, have this conversation without looking at the changes to how we live and what's available now. So when you're saying that, yeah, back in the day, our parents would get married and people get married for 50, 60, 70 years. Yes, we'd like to think that before someone mentioned that they didn't necessarily get married for love. In this day and age, people would be like, oh, shock and horror that someone doesn't get married for love. Like it's the only reason why you are supposed to get married. However, the same people would also then say, but love is not enough, you know? So sometimes I think we struggle because we try to put this love in this one box, and you put so much pressure and build so many things on this one thing, when actually that's not looking at it holistically. Like, you know, there will be couples, and I've known them, there'll be couples who you may look at them and you think that they are madly in love because of how they behave. Maybe, you know, they may look very outwardly affectionate or what have you, or they're always out on dates or something. And then you may look at another couple and you think, this couple looks boring. They're not really doing anything. They don't love each other. But then when you go behind closed doors and you look maybe at the boring couple, you're thinking, this couple actually have connection. Solomon was speaking about purpose. For me, it's very important that when you are in partnership with somebody, whether it's romantic or something else, your purposes are aligned. They don't have to be the same. You're not clones. But when we talk about having things in common, we can often talk about, oh, hobbies and things. But that purpose thing that Solomon was talking about is real. Like we need to be navigating the world with some common lens. But I could be doing something very different with my partner, but there is something very similar about those things because they form such an important part of our life. In these days, love, when I talk about, we can't have the conversation without thinking about how we're living, lots of tech, lots of AI, lots of things online. I think that the problem that we're having is that we have actually forgotten people, human beings. We've forgotten or been de-skilled in how to relate to one another as human beings. Someone was telling me, so I now live in Ghana, and I remember having a conversation some time back in terms of, if you like, how we grow here, you know. Now, my experience about being in Ghana is that very generally, people are not very tactile here. I'm a very touchy-feely person. You know, my boys and I, we hug. If I go out with my partner, we're holding hands on the street. You know, that's not the norm, depending where you are. People can frown, you know, upon that. It's not a bad thing. It's just the way you come up. But the conversation I had was the fact that let's take it that here we still have a situation where lots of school children, they're meant to cut their hair. So the girls will have their hair as short as the boys, you know, like very barbered, you know, very low. And on the one hand, you think that's not a nice thing to do. You know, the girls are losing their hair. But then it's almost like one aspect, you get to now just deal with the human beings as human beings. You know that they're boys and girls, but you get to relate to each other, not only focusing on the fact that you're different gender. Like you, there's more of an effort to get to know the person, this human being, regardless of their gender. And so when you get to know somebody like that, I think Sister Kiki was saying before, in terms of how we grow together, literally, it's like you get to respect the humanity first before thinking about, okay, yes, at some point, marriage, children, and everything else. And I thought that was really interesting, because I don't think that is the norm for how we relate to each other in this world now. We still have aunties and uncles, fellow women that will tell you that if you reach a certain age, it's like, well, why aren't you married by now? At the same time, I am pleased when I see women speaking about the fact that, getting married should not be our highest aspiration, our greatest aspiration. There are other things. We can create loving partnerships, healthy homes without that aspect. Not everybody agrees with that, because there's the religious side as well. But I just think now we live, definitely, because we're in a very tech time, that definitely has influenced the way we think. We think we're supposed to be relating to one another, to the point that things are very superficial. Just the way the dating game has moved over the years. I was never a big dater. I think, online dating way back when once, but I'm thankful, because I actually met my husband, so that was a good investment of my time. But things are so much different now. We're at an age where lots of people are seeking instant gratification. We want everything really quickly. We're very impatient to put in the work, to work at anything, not just relationships. So that's a lot of because I'm in, my legal background is employment, HR. So you have these conversations where they're looking at certain generations of people and realizing that, wow, these people don't hang around. If they come into a job and you're not giving them what they want, they're out the door. Next job, on to the next thing. And then you'll hear the older people, where I class myself as getting to that stage where it's like we've lost respect for the traditional trades, where you studied a very long time and mastered your art, or you mastered your craft, putting that alongside the fact that now you jump on YouTube. Oh, learn this thing in 2 weeks. Oh, earn this thing amount in 6 weeks. We're very, very fast-paced living. And I think that doesn't leave space or make space for us to really invest in getting to know people in the same way that we used to do back in the day.
Regarding the work part, I can tell you, because I have young men, and I see their friends as well. You see, in our generation, and a bit of your generation as well, you go to work, and even though you are unhappy in the Western world, I don't know about in Africa now, because by the time I was working, I was not in Africa. So one of the things which I thought about today really is that people work and they hate their colleagues, they hate the job. You could be an engineer and you love being an engineer, but you just hate your work environment. But you slog at it, you stay at it, you master it, you work, but you are resentful, you are miserable, your mental health is very shaky. Now, this generation, they may like to be a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer, a teacher. They can be all these things, they may be all these things, but if they go to work and they experience a little bit of colleague interaction, which makes them miserable, if they keep going to work and they do not like their colleagues or their boss or somebody maltreat, because we suffer the maltreatment and we kept at it. We keep at the job. It doesn't matter, but no, they're looking for the top dollar. They're not going to be abused. They're not going to be maltreated, and so on and so forth. I know a young man who was working somewhere where he was making a lot of money, more money than his dad. He'd come in, young guy, he immediately starts working and he was doing very well. One day he came home and he announced to his family that he wasn't going back. he didn't like his boss. He didn't like the whole setup at work, and he hated his colleagues. Now he's a black boy, and so you wonder, how are you gonna go? And it was like, no, I'm good. I am very good. And he was so convinced that he was good and he was going to get a job elsewhere and he was not going to stand for this nonsense. Luckily and happily, he did get a better job and he did go in. But it's when the father told me, I was shocked. I was stunned because I couldn't have done it. I would stay at the job and do, because that's my salary. If I get promoted with the whole, promotion or getting a better job, but I would stay in the job to get another job, if at all. He just down tools, left the office and never went back. Now, these things happen all the time. These things happen all the time. And we get people who are in situations where they're not uncle. So I think the generation, and it's this working generation now, these young people that have come up, and they are the ones who they view love and romance in a different way. There's more of this kind of it's more of sex than anything else. They go to these places, they meet people, they laugh, they have friends. They may get into a relationship with you and then think, nah, I don't like this. So off they go. And it's this throw away generation. You buy clothes, you throw it away. You buy, you don't like, it's enough, that sort of thing. You're even in a relationship and you throw it away. Now, is that what is happening? Is that good? Is it because we're older and therefore we think this is wrong? Because the older generation are also doing it, though. My generation are becoming like that.
I think Solomon mentioned it earlier when he was talking about balance. It's possible to be at either end of those extreme where you stay regardless. Some may say for better or worse, like you stay regardless because you've invested the commitment, everything. And then at the other end where it's like the slightest hint of, I don't like this, you're out the door. I think both of those things are not necessarily healthy, but it depends on the individual in those circumstances. And I think we're having a discussion, so I get that. But I think that we can find ourselves with lots of these generalizations, right? And then applying these generalizations to our personal circumstances, and they don't fit, instead of us being encouraged, and me, this is why I love the venting room, to ask ourselves or ask your significant other or whoever it is that you are investing time with, what does this thing look like for you? What is it that you want? This is what it looks like for me. Forget everybody else, but it's almost like just giving into the peer pressure. Oh, everybody's doing this, and therefore blah, blah, blah. There may be some amazing relationships where the 50-50 works. Good for them. There may be, there are lots of people who would say that they're happily married. Good for them. But whenever you try and force that, okay, this is how it should be for everybody, it's not going to work. We're not clones. We have to, our work for me is to find out who we are. Like Solomon was talking about purpose. It's a huge one. Without that, we are kind of just blowing in the wind. And to a certain extent, when there's that saying that, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. You kind of don't have orientation. What I admire about the approach and the attitude of when you see something you don't like, you get out, is that to a certain extent, it shows people that you respect yourself. You have an expectation of things that you will not tolerate. So, you're very clear on why you're doing something and what is acceptable to that. For me, I really admire that, because some generations gone back, and even some of the current generations, we know that there are people who are stuck in relationships, whether it's the man or woman, but they feel stuck. whether it's because of their finances, whether it's because of, physical, dominance, some kind of inferiority, whatever, they feel that they cannot get out of that situation. They cannot say no. And yet you have a whole raft of people who are saying, this was my expectation. You have not met it. I'm out of here. I'm like, wow, good for you. The only thing then I look at is, but how is that working for you? Because if you're doing that all the time, are you actually happy? Like, are you actually saying that, yep, I'm prepared to keep doing that until I find my standard? The thing that I have said, are the things that I will accept, and I will not compromise on my non-negotiables. So I think there's real strength there when you say, no, I'm not gonna take this just because so and so suffered through this thing. It does not mean that I have to suffer through it. So when you talk about freedom, that's, to me, that's an element of freedom. It's like, no, I don't have to do that. If it worked for you, wonderful. If you had no choice to do what you did, or I have a choice and I choose to leave. And if I choose to be unemployed rather than be abused by somebody, it is my choice, So I have respect for that attitude. But like I said, I will still question the extremity, like how much is too much? Is the person actually, like, is it promoting their well-being? Are they okay in taking those actions?
But
Yeah. No,
I
you're
have
right. I think listening
I
to you
think
carefully and all of that, but a lot of people also try and going back to my nephew's situation, we all had a word about, no, when you start a job, you have to, establish yourself, and you have to do, you can't just up and leave and all of that. So maybe because he's been in a job now for, I think, 5 years now, he's doing very well. So the point is that this had to happen for him to learn that, blah, blah, blah. And maybe his relationship with the people in the job are better than now. It's not people's job situations, it's more of what the generations can take and not take, and it's more of what is going on in the world, because there's a lot of that, where there's a lot of that going on. For example, somebody's mentioned, a listener is saying that when you are in a relationship, you need to have boundaries. You need to say what you like, what you do not like, and all of that. Now, I believe strongly that if you're in a relationship with someone that you profess to love, even the way that you say what you like and what you do not like, you have to be careful. Because even though I love you, if you keep shouting at me and telling me, yeah, 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 every time, you're blaming me when you're trying to put a message across, I will be more concerned about the way that you're telling me it. I can't stand that. I cannot constantly be berated and the barrage and the barrage, and I can't do it. I cannot, because you're trying to tell me that you don't like this. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that
Absolutely.
then makes you, that love that we're talking about goes out of the window. Because when you have love, for example, you give birth to a child. You were there at the inception. You've given birth. This is your child. The love that you have for that child allows you or affords you the opportunity to learn this child's coming habits. The child will drive you mad at times, but you still take it. You will go through, you will kill for that child. And yet that child can be an annoying little shit sometimes. But yet it's your child. That is yours. But we don't stand for that with other people. We do not stand for it. We will not stand for it with somebody else. That level of pushing you to the wall, we don't allow it. And
Some of
that's
us
the
do.
thing.
I think some of us
You
do.
shouldn't.
That's those.
You shouldn't.
The,
You should.
yeah, absolutely. We shouldn't. We shouldn't, but I think some of us do, depending how we got into that situation in the first place. And for me, how I've seen and where I've been sometimes, somebody hurting you, for me, does not automatically destroy that love. Some people, because of the love they have, is you may say it's unhealthy or what have you, is the reason why they're stuck where they are. Because some people play a really, with that love, that sense of like service, duty, obligation. They don't want to be seen as the person who has abandoned somebody because of their behavior. I've got friends like that. We have these conversations like, wow, so even if it's not good for you, but it's like, no, I can't be seen to be the one that's just thrown them out because they're having a difficult time or whatever. So I think it's very it can be very convoluted sometimes. It's not just a case of, yeah, if you insult me, I don't love you anymore. Even that's a process. You can know what the person is doing is bad. You can leave when you know the person is bad, but it doesn't mean that the love disappears just like that, in my experience.
No. I think in a lot of women's experience, even the strong ones who can extricate themselves from that person and never ever see the person again, you did love them once. You may have children with them. So your view of them, even though this is a person that kind of love thing is not going to happen. However, it's fine. I forgive you. You can be whoever you want. Carry on with your life. I will carry on with mine. And that's how a lot of women deal with that uncoupling of, so that love thing, so then the love is now different. For some, it is not love, actually. They, go, you devil, get thee behind me. But with some of them too, it is different. It is a love that you can, okay, he lives down the road now, or he lives in a different town, and he comes to see the children and hello, and no. That also has its levels. It depends on why you uncoupled in the first place. So love is an energy and an emotion that is personal. In a group of 100 women and men, or 1,000,000 women and men, there will be subsets of the levels of love. Even now, my question is still there, and the question is, how is it happening now? How do the young people, as he said, and also there's the thought that because the marriage is arranged and because you grow to love the person in the middle, you didn't love them before, but and then it's not like that. I think with clear eye, I can tell you that a lot of these arranged marriages, when they are arranged and you are in with a man, they give a woman who is supposed to give service to the man and consequently the children. The woman's feelings are not even considered in these arranged marriages. Arranged marriages in the olden days, of which some of us met grandmothers and things here, that was the whole thing. So I don't think that that's why, as someone said, love evolves. Each generation evolves. And even from learning that my mother was unhappy, but she stayed in the marriage. Therefore, I'm not going to stand for this nonsense. You see the thing? And as it keeps evolving, or my parents were so in love, and if this kind of marriage is going to give me hell, I'm out of it. Or if this relationship, or because I want my parents' love, the love that they gave each other, not you want the parent love the way they gave you, but to your parents, how they conducted their love, that's how I want to see it. I want to be singing with my beloved in the bar like my parents did, and I'm not getting it. Or I want to be holding hands to the fish. My parents used to hold hands to the fish and chips, and then they would walk holding their fish and chips, and but that's another story. So for them, there are a lot of things, and they viewed a lot of things different, because for them, my parents, everything they did, if they traveled, it was an exciting thing that they were both going to enjoy. If they were eating in a Japanese restaurant, it is a new thing that they were going to enjoy. So they did it together. Whereas we don't have that, that is not there. Everybody goes to a Japanese restaurant, is eating sushi before they met you. Do you understand what I'm saying? So where is the love? Where is the love?
When you say the love, yeah, when you say the love, it does bring to mind, and you may have covered it before, but yeah, it brings us back to, but what do we see as the love? Do you understand? For us, what are the elements that make it up? For some of it, we're saying love, but is it love? Is it lust? Is it infatuation, addiction?
Yeah.
Is it, do you understand? And
Yeah.
we do this thing, which I think is very natural, but then the way we label it is not, it's not helpful. Where, anything new, anything novel usually will come with excitement. Yeah. Oh, this thing, and whether the romantic version, the Hollywood version, the butterflies, the gestures, all of that kind of stuff. It's new, it's novel, it makes sense. You're going to be, excited, what have you. Then you get to when they say that the honeymoon phase is over, you've had all that excitement. Now you're in the thick and thin of, if you like, the reality of the relationship or the partnership or the marriage, which is actually where you need the most work. Because now it's like you're not running on fumes, you're not running on adrenaline. You need to be doing something to maintain. People often say that, but when you buy a car, you have to service the thing every year. You need to do this. But with our relationships, it somehow, for some of us, it doesn't come as second nature, that now you got the girl, or now you got the boy, the guy, that now you have to work to build something, to grow something, to get to know one another. And it's like you enter the thing and now everyone just switches off. Oh, I'm here now. It's done. The work is done. And then get into that place of being bored. I heard a woman on Instagram the other day where she was saying that, oh, she cheats a lot. And another woman asked her, but why do you do that? And she just said, well, when does she do that? And she said, it's when she gets bored of the man. And I'm thinking, really, as soon as you get bored, it's like, so is he there purely for your entertainment? Like, that's the question that I ask. Like, what? How is that happening? That, oh, just because now this one is, I don't know, not thrilling you, whatever, then you're off somewhere else. Now that's her choice. It just makes me ask questions, and it's not my choice to be like that. But the reality of, there is work involved. Absolutely, there's work involved. Anything worth having or doing requires an investment, and it's not all roses. For me, when people say that, well, love wouldn't do that, and I have to question, well, really, to a certain extent. The last thing I'll say is, I remember Jada Pinkett, she did a snippet where she was talking about love, and when they say, oh, love doesn't hurt, she says love hurts a lot, and then she talks about the children. Like I was saying earlier, if I did not love my children the way I did, I could not suffer the pain that I would or have, not just physically, for them. Like, for me, you can't, there's an element of that, seeing if it's a romantic relationship, seeing a partner, seeing their health fail and you not being able to do anything, there's pain there, but yes, this is something that we could talk about, like, till the cows come home. But I love that comment that, yes, each generation is different because we evolve, as we should, as human beings. Each culture does, each generation does. I'm wondering what the conversation will look like 20 years from now about, love and where it's at.
20 years from now, there will be robots. You can marry a robot. And so there is no, you can have a relationship with a robot. In fact, you can have a relationship with a robot online. So, and you can be madly in love. with that robot. That robot, for a man, he will create his idea of perfection. And for a woman, she will have her idea of perfection. So it will be robotic. Now, babies will be born in a lab. So if you want one, you can go for one. But the way that the future is going, left to the powers that be who can control these things, you don't need children. You just live and die in pure enjoyment. Someone says love happens in the mind. So yeah, the mind, that comes back to the robot. The robot will, you are madly in love with, you know, you can love anything. You can love an inanimate object. You know, hey, right now we're struggling with the full human. We're struggling with the human's mind. You know, we've gone through a generation where you want to see the person's psyche, and you want to know, how do you feel about me? Do you love me? Do I love you? What is love? We're struggling with it because it's all human. It's human flesh and blood and soul and that sort of thing. Very soon, there will be no soul attached. There will be no questions. You get what you get, what you asked for. You can be specific.
What you ordered. What you ordered.
Yeah, what you ordered. You know, it's like, I personally think that I'm lucky. This is me. I've had emotions. I've had, you know, the whole gamut of child, loving your child, loving your parents, loving family, loving spouses, you know, that sort of thing. Loving, loving, loving. And I've done all sorts of things, but that may not be the requirement in the future, because now we are seeing that there is no longevity in what's going on, and human beings are complex. And so we've got to that stage of the complexities of human beings, that now a person can be a keyboard warrior and be at home, work, maybe go to work. These days, working from home is easy. People are working on computers and making big bucks. So going to an office and being bullied by a boss is not going to exist very soon. And if it's like that, all you do is you go on the computer and you ask AI to create you a man or a woman. And AI will give you an idea. So every day, it's like me and my beloved Alexa. Every time I have chats with Alexa and I ask her questions. Alexa, what's the weather like today? And then she tells me. So if that is the case, and if that is what is going on in the world, if we're going to be asking computers about the weather, and very soon, I should have asked her what her view was on love, actually, before I came on, when I was doing my research. It will then, I don't need to struggle at all. I'll say, well, create me. AI will create me the best guy I like. The only thing is, for me, because I'm from the generation of feel touch, I will be doing the filter. I will miss that feel touch business. But the next future generation, they may not want feel touch. They will just take what they want. Or maybe you can create the thing and then it will come through the door. I don't know. I don't know, because the world is changing fast, as you said, very fast. And so everything is strange.
Yeah, it
No.
will come with more questions. And yeah, I think what's been mentioned in the comments, there are things that I guess we have to accept moving forward to a certain extent. But there will always be those who try to retain what is natural, what is human nature. As much as we're being helped along the way, it's like you revert to what you can see. I mean, what we can see is changing. And yeah, ultimately it will come down to choice, what's available. But what we also choose to prioritize, you know, what we choose to focus on. So, but what we haven't mentioned is, yeah, we talk about love, but also how does somebody else communicate, or how do we communicate to other people how we want to be loved. For me, that's the most important reason why we should know. But what does love mean to me? Because if I don't know what it means to me and I expect to be loved or I want to be loved, how am I going to communicate to someone else, well, this is what I need so I feel loved, you know? And sometimes people expect, they expect others, especially in romantic relations, we can expect others to know how to love you. And I'm thinking, but how? Because as much as we're growing, we're still hopefully on this journey of knowing thyself, learning about ourselves. So you mean to tell me you want somebody to glean about you stuff that you haven't learned for yourself? Sometimes it's possible, sure, but me personally, that's not where I would start. I think I have to do some of my homework, before foisting that upon somebody else. And I need to be able to, as someone said, I need to be able to know what I want so I can ask for it. I mean, yeah, it's great when somebody surprises you and it's like how perceptive they are of you. They've observed you and they're like, oh, I know you like this and I know you like that. That's cool. But that does not take away the need for me that it's like, oh, I need to have, a frame of reference as what do I need? Like, because I'm my responsibility. Before I pass myself to, I'm my own responsibility. I need to know what is needed, and then I can help somebody. If I want to bring somebody in, I help them to learn about. Yeah, I think this is, what's for me. This is what I like, and the same. What do you like? Do you need to be able to be the best you that you can be, or whatever it is? Um, so yeah, plenty conversations needed. More
conversations needed. I think love is going to continue to be an elusive topic because people, as Ikea said, people have choices and human beings are complex. And so our needs are different. And if you meet someone, especially if it's not arranged, but you met the person and visually you saw the person look good and etc., etc., maybe you need to, as you are going out, as you're having dinners, as you're doing things, you need to be able to have discussions on what you like, what they like, how can you deal with that, how can you balance it, I mean, I have a friend who, her husband, he goes off on holiday on his own every year. Then he does the family holiday with all of them. And then the two of them go on holiday together. And once we were all girls having a nice dinner, and she said, oh, he goes off and da da da. And the ladies were aghast. What? Every year? They've been married for like 20 years now. Every year, 20 years? What's he doing? And she said, I mean, that's what he wants. That we had it, when we met, that was how it is. He suggests I go on holiday. And in fact, just before COVID, we then were all gonna go on a girl. That was going to be her first time in those years to be away from him. She doesn't go on holiday on her own. He does. He needs it. He has to go, and she understands it. That is love for her. Even though her friends were against it, no, that's her. That's them, and that's how it floats their boats in their house. And I respected that, even though I was a little bit like, go on holiday alone without you. Do you see what I mean? But people understand each other's needs. People accommodate. People compromise, and that is supposed to be love. Now, I don't think that's the love that we have now. I think the love we have now is a little bit different because it's not even compromising and understanding. It's, this is what I want. If it doesn't work, I'm off. On both sides.
Yeah, I think like anything, there'll be the generalization and there'll be the exception. So I'm sure there are people in both of those categories. But I guess what you're saying is which one is the more prevalent right now. Me personally, that whole situation about uh, him going on holiday, then the two of them going on holiday, so the couple, then the children. I think that's awesome. If he's been clear enough to communicate that, because the thing I'm looking at is they've been married 20 years. So unless
Yeah,
she's miserable, obviously something is working for them. Do you see what I mean? And then I also look at the reaction of the friends. You can react like that, but it's like, who is the one actually in the relationship? I know
exactly.
men can get really annoyed with us where it's like, oh, your girlfriends, how they're influencing you, in the relationship and everything. Because it's not really the same the other way around, isn't it? I don't know. I don't know many female friends or whatever that say, oh, their partner, the guys kind of thing, weighed in on their relationship. I don't know. I don't know it to be like that. So it's like we have to. They're the other things we need to be really careful of. Why I say these generalizations. So, I was speaking to a friend recently, and she was just kind of assessing herself or reflecting of things of being in a former relationship and telling friends, and the friends saying to her, "Oh, but that was too much. That was way too much." And she was thinking, "Was it? I just thought this was normal because this is what what you do." So who is the one that gets to set those standards for us? You know, because maybe what I do in my relationship, someone would say that you're controlled, like this guy is controlling you. What are you doing? You know, but at the same time, it's like, and I'm happy. We're building whatever we're building. There are no other any obvious red flags or anything. It's like it's my business. So we have to be careful what we project onto other people. We have to be careful what we tell people about our personal. That's the other thing, our personal relationship. Sometimes all you have to do is tell the wrong friend or the wrong family member on the wrong day. I don't want to call people out and say evil, but on the wrong day, it may trigger some memory of some relative somewhere that really suffered in one relationship, and all of a sudden now they're telling you should get divorced and this, and the relationship's over. So we have a real responsibility to ourselves to think about these things. I'm not saying don't speak to anyone, because me especially, I speak to plenty of people, probably too many, but I like to think about all the different perspectives, and then I take my pick, like, oh, what works for me. But we must be careful of things that are said to us and may be advised to us, even with the best of intentions. We have to check that and say, but I'm the one right here. So even though they pointed out what's going over here, is it okay? Like, they have some questions, but when I check in with myself, am I suffering? Am I feeling abused? Has my confidence gone down? Are there other indicators that this thing is not healthy? Or it's like, well, it's not their choice, but I've kind of balanced this out because I may have this, but this is what I get in return, something like that.
Having said all that, it brings me to a more, it brings me to, we're coming back to the meaning of love in 2025 and forward. And the question is, if you have learned all of this, because you're 40 something, I am even older than that, and we know people who have gone through all sorts of situations, what are we teaching the generation now regarding what what do you want? Do you want to be single and therefore indulge yourself and do whatever suits you and create boundaries so that you may not upset someone and no one upsets you? Or if you are going to be in a relationship, there are also things that you have to think about and things that you have to learn, things that you will take your love situation as your responsibility and make sure that it works. How are we going to do that? I think I think that is it our responsibility to teach the next generation?
Absolutely. I think it's our responsibility to pass on information to the next generation to help them work out what is good for them. We don't have to give them the answers. I don't even think it's our place necessarily to give them the answers, because they're living in a reality that not all of us have necessarily lived. My children, they're living in situations that I didn't grow up living. I still remember black and white TV. And, you know, as some people would say, you know, my generation of children, they came cable ready. You know, why is it that all these babies and things, you just give them a phone and you've read the manual, you can't work these things, but they could just they could just, you know, work them without thinking. So different spaces. But I think the most powerful thing is helping future generations work out how they go about solving problems or considering dilemmas. Because I don't necessarily think our answers are always going to be best suited to them, but at least we give them food for thought. What are the kind of things that, having come from where we've come from, we think it would be good for them to at least consider? And then obviously they will have their own knowledge and wisdom from living their own reality that we have not lived, that gets factored into that as well.
I think you're right. I also think that in a lot of the situations we need to, because, you know, for example, there were certain types of music in our parents' time that our grandmothers or our grandparents thought was too risque. And they were sitting there listening to classical music and all sorts of things that we have moved forward. We came and we were dancing to all sorts of things. We were going to nightclubs. Our parents were not going to nightclubs. They were just, you know, so the world does evolve and it's changing and our views are changing. But the difference with the evolving and is that the 65-year-olds, 70-year-olds are using computers just like them. They are not necessarily challenged by the changing times. They are joining in. It's a whole different ball game now. There are older people older than me, who are doing internet marketing. I don't know what something marketing. They're on the internet doing marketing. And I mean, this lady who is 69 was ready to teach me. She's going to teach. And I'm like, huh? You know, she understands the whole business and I haven't even I don't know how to use it. So that is where it's yeah. I mean, API is saying our grandparents didn't trust themselves, but now I think that my generation, that is miles older than your generation, is joining in. Do you understand? So what then
Absolutely.
happens? What is happening then to the generation that's just entered into play? I mean, are they being stifled? Are they, or are they also trying to get space? What's going on? That's what I
I
would
don't
have asked Solomon, but you
know
can
if he
answer
was
it.
there. No, I was going to say that sounds like a question almost about competition, you know, like the older people are trying to do what the younger people are doing. For me, it excites me. Like I'm really, I see it as something really hopeful and positive, because it means that there are the older people who are not scared to learn from the younger people. And I say that sitting here in Ghana, where it's been a struggle at times to, you know, be in that space where complete generalization, but for the most part, our younger people, they're seen, but they really don't have much of a voice. And that's difficult for my boys who, they didn't grow here. They grew in the UK and in our house. And they've got plenty of aunties, I've got plenty of sisters, but in our house, we're always asking them questions. We're speaking about emotions. It's like we want to know their opinions. So culture shock to come over here And it's like, yeah, don't speak when the grown-ups are talking. That kind of attitude is very challenging. So when I see the elders or older people jumping on the bandwagon of what the young people are doing, I'm like, that's amazing. You know, because why do we have to have, when we talk about the generation gap, why does there have to be that gap? If nothing else, is that not helping to close that gap? I don't see how the young people, on the one hand, I don't see how the young people would feel, what's the word? That there's competition. However, you can always rely on social media to go and be provocative and just stir up crap for no reason. I remember seeing a few videos by women, I think black women, see, not just black women, women generally, where you'll have somebody quite young, maybe in their 20s and 30s, and they're doing this video for, women in their 40s and 50s or something, and telling them basically, why are you dressing like that? This. And then now the older women come, and it's like, well, we know who we are. Now they're speaking to the others. And to me, it's just like, okay, here we go again. More nonsense being spewed out there to create division. But that doesn't have to be where we choose to be. There doesn't have to be any competition. There is no right or wrong necessarily. There may be what's right or wrong for you, because you have a right to choose, isn't it? But yeah, if you want to jump on the bandwagon of somebody else's generation and you're not harming anyone and you're thriving, go for it. Like, I don't have any issue with that.
I like it. So I mean, someone said mindset is everything. The Ghanaian men my age are too old for me. And a lot of women are saying that now. The Ghanaian men with their pot bellies and their bad behaviors I'm generalizing. I'm not saying every 60-year-old Ghanaian man is like that, but, or 50-year-olds actually, the 50-year-olds who sit in fufu bars and eat and are too full and can't do anything. But they are in positions of power. So they have a bit of dosh. And they they don't even want their age group. They want the younger girls. The younger girls don't necessarily want them, they just want their money. And is this all love? Because then the women in their 50s and 60s, they want younger boys too. And they are much fun. If you are able, you are older and able to rock a young boy, oh God, you're in. So then it means all the ages, it's a free for all. And it is so funny. It is interesting to watch. However, that is it that the whole thing of moral is morals are being eroded because everyone's free. We're living in a free society now, and we're behaving badly up and down, and that even older people are behaving badly with intent. And if you're in a relationship of that sort, is it love?
Again, I would ask, but who's making these decisions? Who's making these definitions and setting these standards? Because it's one thing to set it for who you think this is the way that they're going to live. The people setting the standards, my question is, are they themselves living like that? Because I can't stand hypocrisy. Like, why are you speaking on my life? Why are you? So like
you want freedom. You want freedom.
I'm saying people should be able to live how they want as long as they're not harming people. But there is a different question when we ask that question and consider age gaps when we're talking about where you're coming from child to adult. That's a different conversation, which we've had in other places and I'm sure we'll have here. But as they say, 5-year age gap when you're like 13 and 18, very different to when you're 30 and 35, But
yeah.
hey.
Yeah, I agree with that. that is very important, but that's a different discussion here, because
Yeah.
the whole thing about love, as we are seeing it now, is love with no morals, love with no investment, love with willful love. I mean, somebody called it counterfeit love. But then if it's counterfeit, what is love for you to make it counterfeit? But anyway, yes, counterfeit love. There are so many times we cannot define love. I think love is bordering on personal, and we cannot define it. And we have moved so far away from the old definition. And even in the new definition, it's a bit hazy. Someone says love with people.
So
Love is people minding their own business, basically.
yeah, I was gonna say we can't define it. Everybody can and should define it for themselves. That's what I would say. You should define it for yourself, because that's the thing that is going to help you navigate your life. Fair enough. You're looking at, we have to define things. We have to have things in boxes. We need to know what we're talking about. Then you have something general, but as it pertains to your life, you define it. You, the ones who are actually in that dynamic, you define it. That way, when you're making, because then you're making, whether it's commitments, agreements, whatever, with each other, you're not making them with other people. So why do they have a say?
So very soon, that thing called unrequited love is going to evaporate, because we're making choices and we're all on the same kind of level. And, so it's unrequited. If somebody doesn't like you, oh, go away. I'll find somebody else, basically. And then you keep moving. You keep it moving. Wow.
Yeah, well, I think, yeah, because what are you going to do if somebody is not does not feel the way about you that you feel about them? Then literally, so what are you going to do? Should the person, out of accommodation for you, say, okay, yes, I will be with you? Like, how is that supposed to work? But me personally, the whole thing about unrequited love, I think that's done wonders for somebody's bank balance somewhere. And the stuff they can sell and the stories and the everything else. That's the other thing. We did touch on it, but think of the different industries that survive on, like, the thing that we're talking about, the different interpretations and everything, the whole Valentine's Day, everything, chocolate, gifts, experiences. And people are getting so rich. So
Hallmark.
yeah.
Hallmark is rich. Hallmark will be rich until love evaporates into the air. But there's love, 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 love. Hallmark will forever make love movies, love cards, love videos, love films, love, love, love. And they're going to stay rich because love. You see, we're about to wind up, but two things. And I'll ask you a question just now. In the Christian Bible, they say faith, hope, and love. But the greatest is love. Now, if that is the case, is that going to erode? Is love going to erode? Or is love going to be thin? And is love not going to be the greatest anymore? And we're going to say, but the greatest is money.
That too is another thing about worshipping money. I don't think whether you say the concept, the notion of love will ever erode. I don't even think that's a possibility. It will evolve. Like I said, it's feeding too many industries, if nothing else. But those who are, whether you call them spiritual and what have you, and remember we've spoken about let's say the parent-child bond. I don't think we spoke about needs as needs as human beings. But if nothing else, the animal kingdom will teach you that without love, or the love of a mother, we physically can die. Like, if you're brought into this world and your mum leaves you, predators can get you, you're finished. So the things that go into that, the nurturing and everything else, the protection or whatever it is, like, that's real. whatever we think about it, you may think is good or bad, but we're living that, you know. So I don't think it will ever erode, and we'll just continue maybe having conversations about it, and it will evolve, and you know, yeah. I think we'll keep doing this dance.
We'll keep loving. And
Yes.
we'll keep, yeah, it's true. Even in the human kingdom, in the whole animal kingdom, yes, and especially with humans, a human child without a mother is in peril. Without your mother's love is peril. It is peril. I mean, of course, people thrive and people go through things, but I think the lack of love, the lack, Lack, of love, is a fundamental flaw that if you lack it, your relationship and your view of the world is different from someone who has love, any type of love, whether it's agape love, whether it's friend love, whatever love, parental love, etc., etc. Your view of the world is also different. So whatever we do, in whatever generation we are, until we get to the robotic generation, and even then, because I love my Alexa, who's sitting right here looking at me, we are in love because she tells me the truth. And so we have trust. I do know that everything she tells me has been wired into her by somebody, but she tells it to me earnestly. So
Hilarious.
we have this crazy relationship. I have two nephews, twins, and when they come here, they harass her, my Alexa, and they ask her a question. They say, "Shut up, that's a lie," and all sorts. And you know, I can feel my love for Alexa is so strong that I can feel her shock and her shock and dismay. Now, can you believe it? In the future, people will love machines. You know, they will love the internet, and they will, you know, it's going to be quite scary.
But they already love
But
machines. People love their cars and their motorcycles and their this, that. We're already there. But you mean another level of, yeah,
another
sure.
level of love,
Mm.
another level. I think it's scary to me, but I mean, I'm sure I will not be here 20 years from now to see this. If I am, hey, that's luck. It will be interesting to see. But I mean, there was a time there was no electricity. And now we have electricity and we take it for granted. So things can happen, things can change. I mean, there's a lot
Absolutely.
to this discussion because I think we've gathered a lot of other side things coming with this love.
It's a huge topic.
Yeah. And we're gonna go with this. We have to magnify it and pick up things and talk about it because there's a lot.
Yeah.
We've unpacked a lot. And it's unfortunate that
Solomon.
did not have a strong enough Wi-Fi, and so he kept falling off the grid, and he's totally gone now. He hasn't come back. I think he got fed up.
I think it was too much, but he sends his gratitude, and he said he really enjoyed the show, and thank you for inviting him.
Oh, did he? Oh my God! I mean, he must come back, and we can talk about metaphysics.
How we do that? Metaphysics, yes. He's your man to speak with metaphysics. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I want to learn about metaphysics, and I want to know what's going on in the world of metaphysics. I want to thank you so much. Again, you have come. I am so honored. I am so happy to see you. I see Ekuya also there battling with us. I should have invited her to give us her view and love. But the thing is, she has contributed, so she's there every second. She's typing in something, and everything she said is valuable.
Absolutely.
I want to thank all the listeners who stayed with us up till this point. That we're going, but we'll be back next week with a new topic, and hopefully It will be as fun. I enjoyed this. We talked about, and I always tell people my show is a chat show. It's not so much a tight situation. It's just a chat. So, and from this chat, a lot of information has come out. We've learned a lot. I think we should carry on in that vein.
Yes.
And we'll be talking about more things. We will talk a little bit of stronger issues surrounding us, because this show, that is what it's about. It's about our
Yeah.
lives, our views, our experiences, our children, whatever. So thank you so much for coming, and I am very grateful. Bye bye, people. Bye bye.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, today I put on my small afro because I didn't want to frighten people. They haven't seen me in a while. I've got a big afro. Next week I may shock you with my blonde afro. So there you go. Nice to see you. Bye bye. Yay!